Some homes are built to last while others just fade away into history. Now that's exactly what this video is about, because I don't want you to get stuck with one of these homes that are fading away. So in this video, I'm going to break down everything you need to know about these old house styles. I'm Jerry Pincus, your real estate expert, and I'm here to help you avoid those pitfalls that are costly. So here are 10 old house styles that are no longer built, and here they are in descending order.
It almost looked like
Number 10 is flounder houses. Now these were in high demand back in the 17 and 1800s, and you've got a one-sided sloping roof what makes it appear as though the wall is missing, and it was cheap and easy to build on those city lots that were very narrow, which helped maximize space in those tight areas. But as cities got bigger, larger squared off houses became a lot more preferable, and local zoning laws, they didn't really care for that flounder house's odd shape, so they were completely faded out. Now every once in a while you may stumble across one of these today, and it's really a piece of history. But remember, old houses can also be a bit of a headache, as these homes are a lot more expensive to maintain, and they're really not for everybody. But if you're into unique houses and you don't mind spending extra money on repairs, old houses may be for you. So next on our list is number 9, the Tudor Revival. Now these were very popular in the early 1900s, and their design comes from old English houses. They have steep roofs and big brick chimneys, which also made them popular with high-class homeowners of that time due to their grand and massive appeal. But after World War II, people wanted simple and practical. Affordable homes became super popular during this time, and that's when homes could be built quickly. And it's the complete opposite from a Tudor style home, because Tudors look really cool with all that detailed stonework, all the wood, and those steep roofs, and all the stuff that makes them expensive to build and expensive to maintain. Now, if you want to buy a Tudor in 2025, it's probably not going to be an affordable house, because the cost of exterior repairs, roofing, and maintaining that detailed woodwork, it's going to be a lot. So if you love that look and you're willing to take the upkeep, it sure is a beautiful piece of architectural history. But again, if you're looking for something low maintenance, this may not be your best choice. Which leads us to number 8, the American Foursquare. Now these were the perfect middle ground homes that fit right between those Victorian houses of the 19th century and the plain, simple houses that came a little bit later. And they popped up from the late 1800s and were popular all the way through to the 1930s. Now typically these houses were 2.5 stories tall with a roof that slopes on all sides and a big front porch. Now one big reason why they were so popular is because they were easy to build. So back in the day, companies like Sears Roebuck used to sell them as a mail order kit. Crazy but true. And they would ship pre-cut materials directly to the buyers, who could assemble them themselves or hire a local builder. And this actually made owning a house a lot easier, especially in the growing cities where people needed affordable homes. And I got to tell you the truth, my first home was one of these that was built in 1926 with a super simple design. But as the market evolved, housing trends started to change as well. And people started wanting more open floor plans and bigger houses and garages that are attached to their houses. So the Foursquare with separate rooms, which people really didn't like as much anymore. At the same time, the rise of suburban ranch homes further contributed to their decline. However, Foursquares, they have a strong appeal in older neighborhoods. They're strongly built, they've got lots of space, and they've got character. But old houses mean they often have old plumbing, bad wiring, or poor insulation. So if you're thinking about buying one, make sure you factor in these potential renovation costs, especially if the house hasn't been updated in decades. Now another house that was really famous in the 1900s is number 7, the American Craftsman. Now these homes were built between the early 1900s and the 1930s and focus on handcrafted details, solid materials, and practical layouts. So the whole idea was to get away from those super fancy Victorian houses and go for something a little bit more simple and practical. Now these homes were built to last a long time, which is another reason why they had their downfall. These houses required skilled labor and high quality materials to actually build. So those weren't really cheap, even back then. And when the Great Depression hit, the demand for affordable, mass-produced housing pushed this style completely out. So builders started moving towards simpler, cheaper homes that could be constructed really a lot faster. And also the Craftsman designs didn't quite fit that open concept layout that later became popular. Now today, these homes are still in demand, especially in places like California. Among the houses that we have talked about so far, this one by far, it retains its significant market demand even to this day. And number 6 on our list is shotgun houses. Now, such houses were common in southern cities from the late 19th century through the 1920s. They are long and narrow, and usually only about 12 feet wide. And this design lets the air run right through the entire house, which was a huge selling point in the days before air conditioning. Now these houses were cheap to build, and most of them are small urban lots. And in fact, you could fit several shotgun houses on a single block, which made them super practical in crowded cities like New Orleans. By the way, they were also one of the first affordable housing options for working class families. But by the mid-1900s, shotgun houses, they started disappearing. Cities grew, people wanted homes with more privacy, more storage, more open layouts, and many of them were torn down throughout the South, especially during city improvement projects during the 60s and 70s. Now today, you're still going to find them in old neighborhoods, and some of them have actually been fixed up and they're pretty nice. They've turned them into cool homes or cafes or rentals. Plus small rooms, no hallways, and a lack of storage space, it does make it challenging for most people to live in. Number 5 is the Queen Anne style houses. Now if you've ever dreamed of owning a home with turrets and wraparound porches, a Queen Anne, it might catch your eye. These homes were built in the 1880s and early 1900s and designed to stand out way above all the rest. They said, hey, I'm fancy. And no two are exactly the same, which is part of the thing that makes them really unique. But most of them are over 100 years old, so they may not have been restored. So sometimes they're going to have old plumbing, electrical problems, and issues with the building itself. All that fancy wood and the details for the repairs, and they need fixes pretty often. So just remember, maintenance on this type of a house, it's going to cost a little bit more money. So even just fixing the roof, it can get tricky because there's so many steep parts. Still, a well-maintained Queen Anne house can be a great investment because they're often in old parts of town where prices stay pretty steady. And it's a common style for bed and breakfast if that's your thing. And some of these homes actually will qualify for tax incentives and preservation grants. So if you're considering one of these houses, consider a thorough inspection and look for signs for foundation issues, the electrical, the plumbing, or past water damage because they can become money pits. So next on our list is one of my favorites. It's number 4, the Atomic Ranch House. Now the Atomic Ranch homes, or mid-century modern homes, they were built between the 1940s and 1960s, reflecting space-age optimism of the post-war America. And they were built for simplicity and function. For homebuyers today, the Atomic Ranch is still highly desirable in certain regions. And the biggest appeal is the open floor plan and the natural light. So these homes were designed for the modern living with fewer walls, really an easy flow between the rooms, and many of them have terrazzo floors and built-in cabinetry, which adds to their mid-century vibe. But there are some pitfalls because insulation wasn't a priority in these homes when they were built, which means the original models have poor energy efficiency. And you'll be dealing with high cooling costs in hot climates, that is if they haven't been upfitted. And of course the electrical and plumbing systems also may need to be updated, as many of these were built with outdated materials. And another challenge is actually finding one that hasn't been poorly remodeled or butchered up, because over the years many Atomic Ranch homes were remodeled to suit the more traditional tastes. So you may need to do some restoration work for yourself. Number 3 on the list is Dutch Colonial Revival. In the early 1900s, the Dutch Colonial Revival homes brought back the look of the 17th and 18th century Dutch houses. And these were built in places like New York and Pennsylvania. Now, although they are still around today, they're not as common as they used to be, and one big reason is that big massive roof. The gambrel roofs, they need more upkeep compared to a standard pitched roof. And if they haven't been built right, they're notorious for developing leaks over time. So inside, a lot of these homes still have their original layouts, which means smaller kitchens, fewer bathrooms, and sometimes awkward room placements compared to a modern home. Number 2 is octagonal houses. Now this was pretty neat because back in the mid-1800s, Orson Squire Fowler supported the idea that octagonal houses were actually more efficient and provided better airflow and natural light. But he also believed that these houses could provide 20% more living space compared to a traditional rectangular house. But the problem was actually building them, because regular builders were used to square formatted houses. So an 8-sided house needs a lot of custom materials and odd-shaped rooms, and also more intricate roofs to build. So ultimately, the octagonal style house, it didn't last very long. And number 1 is Lustron homes. Now imagine a house made entirely out of steel. That's a Lustron home. And these homes were built to solve the housing crisis, where their steel design was both the best selling point and what killed them at the same time. And there was one of these homes in a neighborhood that I used to live in about 20 years ago, but you really don't see them very often. Now these houses were way ahead of their time, and all steel design made them expensive to produce. And traditional home builders, they relied on wood and brick, and they didn't get used to it. On top of that, The financing of a Lustron home was complicated because lenders couldn't figure out how to classify them, which actually hurt their resale value. The company that manufactured these actually went bankrupt just after a few years, leaving fewer than 2,000 of these Lustron homes standing today. Now, finding contractors who could actually work with steel construction was also another problem, because if you need to replace a panel, the original parts are pretty rare right now. Now, keep in mind, these houses don't have drywall. You just can't drill into the wall because the entire structure, it's metal. Just remember, water and steel, they don't mix, so moisture can be an issue with these homes. But on the flip side, Lustron homes are nearly indestructible. Since both the interior and exterior are all metal, you don't have to worry about termites or rot or windstorms or any other type of natural disaster. They're pretty strong. So in conclusion, the fact is most older homes, they do have their drawbacks. It could be a financial standpoint from buying one of these older homes, but it could be still a really good investment. It depends on your specific house and your market conditions. Some styles, like the American Foursquares, they're still very solid investments because they're practical design and they're sturdy construction. And your main concern with buying any home is its location, location, location. Atomic ranch homes are really another style that's a strong investment potential because it's especially true in mid-century modern communities. California and Florida, we've seen prices really appreciate on these types of homes. Buyers who appreciate clean lines, open layouts, and large windows will seek these homes out even today. So let me know in the comments what style you love. Which one do you like to see if they were building them again? I'm Jerry with Jerry Pincus Real Estate Experts. If you're thinking about buying or selling a house here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, with the birds, or anywhere else in the United States, my team is here to help you. Just pick up the phone, give us a call at 843-839-9870. We'll hook you up with that local real estate expert if it's not us. We really want to make sure that you find your hidden gem and you avoid those pitfalls that are costly, and that when you're buying, you're not getting average, but you're getting way above average. So until next time, stay happy, stay educated, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. And give me a thumbs up like those guys.